The 24th of April 2024, Paul Murphy is a Dublin TD, a Dublin politician elected in the last election. He's for the party People Before Profit, which I call People Before Puberty, and also he's connected with the Solidarity Movement. This is with so-called poor people. He's supposed to associate with poor people. I have made the question and asked the question, with the race to the bottom of socialism and the race to look after the poor, is it not in their interest to have people poor? After all, if an economy was performing well, people who are poor would get working and would get moving up the ladder and would become better off, but that would then leave him with no votes. So is it not the case that it's in his interest to keep people as poor as he possibly can and to do everything he can to make sure they're poor? The big question is not that. The big question is, why do those same people go in and take out a ballot box and mark number 1 or 2 opposite his name? That is the biggest mystery in history. Now, he wants a complete ban on fossil fuel. He doesn't tell us how his own house is heated. He doesn't tell us how the Dáil is heated. Well, I can tell you, it's heated with fuel, gas, and they have a new system in to make sure they're all nice and comfortable, and that the nice cheap meals he gets in the Dáil, in the Leinster House, are all produced by fossil fuel. Nothing else, only fossil fuel. Now, he wants the advertising a fossil fuel ban. So, for example, a Shell oil ad would not be allowed. As to why one oil company can't say, look, our product is cheaper or better, or we have some new oil or something else. I don't know why that is, because you can shout about hydrogen and everything else that doesn't work, no problem, but not fossil fuel, which contains hydrogen. Now, he criticised the Green Minister, Eamon Ryan, for not doing enough. He hasn't built enough windmills. The fact that they're contrary to the SCA directive, and Paul Murphy will work hard to make sure there's never a proper assessment of our renewable energy policy as required by the SCA directive, shows that he's a lawbreaker. Law means nothing to him. He said that Ryan was not meeting any targets. The Greens were meeting no targets. Well, the Scottish government, against the Greens minority, has recently dumped out the whole net zero policy by 2030 on the grounds that it is impossible to achieve. And the British government has moved away the limit for making petrol and diesel cars 2030, to push that out because it's impossible to achieve. Nobody's buying electric cars, they're dropping like lead balloons. Paul Murphy is obviously panicking. He feels there mightn't be any electric cars. He's panicking. He knows the hybrid cars use fuel, so we don't know what effect the battery has, but he wants electric cars. He doesn't drive himself. I understand he has a bicycle. I don't really know. We know that the Green Party leader, Eamon Ryan, drove a diesel van when he was taking up his position as minister. Now, so he wants to use every media effort. He clearly believes that the media is the way to go. He's talking about fossil fuel as if it were cigarettes. And yet, over the last winter, the people who vote for him were kept alive, and their children and their old people, by fossil fuel. And yet, they're going to go out and vote for Paul Murphy in the next election on the grounds that he leaves them with no fuel at all, and the highest electricity prices in Europe, and he's proud of it. And they're going to vote for him. He talks about asthma, and about asthma being high in London. We haven't time to examine the figures, but there's 5 to 6% asthma in Iceland, and I was there, and there's many parts of Iceland with no industry, no chimneys, nothing, and they have a lot of geothermal heating, so there's not that much emissions from fossil fuel. There's the odd car and the odd lorry, so it's just 5 to 6% in Iceland, and I don't see where the figures are for London. If you want to comment underneath what the percentage is for London, but I'd like him to answer how the trains that are running, including the Dart, all run on fossil fuel, right? It's not burnt right in the place where they are, but it's burnt there in Ringsend. There's a big chimney up there in the is it the Pigeon House you call it? It's burnt down in Shannon Estuary 500 tons of coal a day they were burning. Now they're importing wood from America by a ship burning fossil fuel. So all of these things, trains, buses and everything, and the mighty buses that Eamon Ryan is bragging about, all emit fumes. Now, so he's clearly a great fan of Sigmund Khan, and in the St George's Day protests in London, which were banned by the police, the big call was to get Khan out of power. Whether the people of London will vote him out or not, I don't know. That's the Lord Mayor. He's mad for this stuff and mad for banning cars. It'll be for the people to decide if they want more punishment or not. One way would be dispense with London, have cities elsewhere, and leave the London to all the migrants and all these type of fellows. Now, he makes no comment about airplanes. I believe he was asked about airplanes. Why does he not want advertising banned for airplanes? Surely Ryanair ads, Qatar Airlines, all of them are all for airplanes that burn fossil fuel. Why are the Greens and the people before puberty, why are they not including airplanes? The sky was never as full as airplanes as it is this weather when the sky is clear. Why are they not taking action against that? Because he's a hypocrite. He's a hypocrite. He's twisted in his ideology, and the people who vote for him are twisted. Now, so he's going to bring it up in the Dáil. Good luck with that. I wouldn't be surprised if the Green Man party leader wouldn't say, right, we'll go for it, and Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael will ban advertising of fuel. It's how ridiculous. What about the sign outside a filling station? Maxol diesel. Is that going to be banned? So how are you going to know what brand of diesel you're getting? How are you going to know what sort is going in? How is the standards going to be kept up if the customer cannot choose between BP, Texaco, all of these brands? Maybe you'd like to answer that, somebody. He's a Dublin TD, as I say. He's on about nothing about targets for crime investigation. Dublin's one of the highest crime rates in Europe, and there's no crime being investigated. The guards will only investigate woke crime against all the migrants. They won't investigate crime unless it's a murder or a rape or something like that. So this is the situation. So he doesn't make any. He's not worried in the least bit about the protection of old people and that, and yet he claims to be for solidarity. So what about housing? They have no houses. He's bringing in thousands and thousands of migrants that are taking up all the housing and building new houses for them all over the place. And he was one of them who told we couldn't go any faster. So why has he no policy on housing or to propose it? And why has he no policy on the medical crisis, on the waiting lists? What has he done to make suggestions about the Children's Hospital? Absolutely zilch, absolutely nothing. I say he's mad for renewable energy. Why are there no large wind farms in Dublin? Eamon Ryan moved to ban them on the Wicklow Mountains because they were too close to Dublin. Why can't there be wind farms put in Dublin and amend the law some way to allow them be where the electricity is used? I'm speaking here about having a big wind turbine right beside the Aviva Stadium, for example, Crow Park, and all these places. Why can't they put them in there if they're so absolutely wonderful? The answer to all this, folks, is, and there's no strategic environmental assessment done, the few Dublin TDs are in a position to dictate policy to the country. The tail is wagging the dog. The country TD cannot bring in any law to bring about changes in Dublin City, but the Dublin TD can bring in any laws he likes to bring about whatever changes he wants in the country. That's why he gets elected, but it's up to the rural TDs to stand up to him, and they're not doing it. But of course, this all comes about because the medium, he was on Channelside Northern Sound, I think it was. Yeah, it was Channelside Northern Sound to stand in for Joe Finnegan. He rang him from the country, rang him up to Dublin. Why wasn't Channelside Northern Sound interviewing the likes of me? Why didn't they interview other Conservatives? No, they couldn't get anyone left enough in the Channelside Northern Sound area, the North Midlands of Ireland. They had to go up to Dublin to get Paul Murphy there. And when he's in Dublin, he can get RTE, he can get where he likes. What is so special about Paul Murphy, a Dublin left-wing TD, and nothing special about the people in the country. You can see the double standards that's taking place. And if Paul Murphy wants to debate this with me, he's very welcome. I'm all ready to go in the debate for his woke cultural Marxism and all of that. Perhaps he'd like to tell us why the Scottish Government threw the whole net zero plan out the window last week, because it's impossible to achieve. I know it's impossible to achieve. He probably still daydreams about it. How many of his voters know it and how many of them don't? And how will he do? He'll probably regain his seat. I don't know. But that's the thing. What we can do is try and reduce the number of TDs who believe in this baloney in the next Parliament, and try and get our man Herman Kelly elected for the European Parliament, and keep the Greens and the lefties out of politics as much as possible. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, comment underneath, and we'll see you back. Thank you.